Okay guys, so I have the next example here. Okay, let's look at how you're going to solve this question also. So you have to find the limit of 7x minus 4 divided by the square root of x cubed plus 5 as x approaches positive infinity. Okay, so now let's look at how you are going to solve this question. Okay, so if you try the direct substitution for this case, you are going to have an indeterminate form. Okay, so we will have to find a way to compute this limit. Okay, so I've already solved a similar example, so we are going to use the same method that we used to solve that example here. Okay, so we learned that if you have a function f of x, okay, that has a power n, okay, and then we take the square root of this function f of x, okay, its power now becomes what, n over 2, okay. So now in this case the function f of x, okay, will be equal to the x cube plus what, 5, okay. And then we know that in this case the n, which is the power for the function, will be equal to what, 3, okay. But when we take the square root of the function, which will give us the square root of x cube plus 5, then the highest power will now become 3 over 2, okay. So if you have such a problem, what to do is that you consider the denominator, okay, and then you look for the highest power of what, x, okay. So in this case, the highest power of x will not be this 3, but will rather be what, 3 on 2, okay. So what you're going to do is that you're going to factor out x to the power 3 on 2 from both the numerator and then the denominator. That's what you are going to do. So let's look at how you are going to do that. Okay, so now let's focus on the denominator, okay. So you have the limit as x approaches positive infinity, okay. For Let's focus on the denominator first, okay. So for the denominator, we are going to have the square root of x cube, okay, bracket open, 1 plus 5 over what, x cube, okay. This is what we're going to have for the denominator, okay. So now let's focus on the numerator. So we want to factor x to the power of 3 on 2 out from both the numerator and then the denominator, okay. So let's look at what will happen. So from the numerator, you're going to have x to the power 3 on 2, bracket open, 7 over x to the power 1 over 2. Okay, this is what you're going to have, minus 4 over x to the power 3 on 2. Okay, this is what you are going to have. Okay, so let me explain to you how I did this. We have 7x, okay. So what you have to do is to divide the 7x by what, x to the power what, 3 on 2, okay. And then this will give us 7x to the power 1 minus what, 3 on 2, and then that will be equal to what, 7x to the power what, minus 1 on 2, and then this will be the same as what, 7 over what, x to the power what, 1 on 2. Okay, that's what I did there. So the same thing for the second term, you will divide the 4 by what, x to the power what, 3 on 2, okay. So at the end, the numerator will be x to the power 3 on 2, bracket open, 7 over x to the power half, okay, minus 4 over x to the power 3, x to the power 3 on 2, bracket closed, okay. So let's look at something here. Okay, so what you're going to do is that you're going to rewrite, the square root of x to the power 3 will give us x to the power what, 3 on 2, okay. So we can do the substitution here, okay. So we are going to have this to be equal to the limit as x approaches positive infinity, okay, for the square root of x cube, okay, bracket open, 7 over the square root of x, because x to the power half will give us the square root of x, okay, minus 4 over the square root of what, x cube, okay. This is what you are going to have, okay. All this divided by the square root of x cube, okay, multiplying the square root of 1 plus 5 over x cube, okay. This is what you are going to have, okay. So this will cancel out this, and then from here let's try the direct substitution, okay. So you're going to have 7 over the square root of infinity, okay, minus 4 over the square root of infinity cube, okay, divided by the square root of 1, okay, plus 5 over infinity cubed. Okay, that's what you are going to have. Okay, so now let's simplify this. This value here will approach 0. This will also approach what? 0. And then this value will also approach what? 0. So at the end, you're just going to have 0 minus 0 divided by the square root of 1 plus 0, which will give us a value of what? 0 over 1. Okay, and then that will be equal to what? 0. Okay, so that will be our answer for this example also. So let's take the next example. Okay, so this is the next example. Okay, so let's look at how you are going to solve it. Okay, so if you try the direct substitution for this case also, we are going to have an indeterminate form. Okay, so you will have to find a way to compute this. Okay, so what you're going to do is that you have to take a close look at the denominator here. Okay, and then you look for the highest power of what? X, in this case, which is what? X squared. Okay, so what you are going to do is that you are going to factor out x squared from both the denominator and then the numerator. Okay, the denominator will not be a problem, but for the numerator you have to do some transformation before you can factor out x squared. Okay, so let's look at that. So you are going to have the limit as x approaches positive infinity. Okay, let's focus on the denominator. We are going to factor out x squared. Okay, so you are going to have x squared bracket open 3 minus 2 over x squared. Okay, that's what you're going to have for the denominator. So now let's focus on the numerator. Okay, so for the numerator, we have the square root of x squared plus 5. Okay, this is what we have. Okay, and then I want to factor out x squared, okay, out of this. So look at something here. If I rewrite this as x squared bracket open 1 plus 5 over x squared, okay, at the end, we are just going to have the square root of what? X squared, okay, multiplying the square root of 1 plus 5 over x squared, okay, and then this will give us x multiplying the square root of 1 plus 5 over x squared. This is what you are going to have. So you see that at the end you will just have only x factored out, okay, and not what? X squared, but you want to factor out x squared, not x, because if you factor out x and then we do the cancellation, you're going to be left with what? X here again, so that will not work. So you have to what? Factor out what? X squared and not what? X. So let's look at what you are going to do. So for the numerator again, we have x squared plus what? 5. Okay, so for the factorization, let's look at what I'm going to do. So instead of factoring x squared out directly, I'm going to factor out x to the power 4. Okay, so let's look at that. So you're going to have x to the power 4 bracket open 1 over x squared, okay, plus 5 over x to the power of 4. Okay, this is what you are going to have. Okay, so at the end we are just going to have the square root of what? X to the power 4. Okay, the square root of x to the power 4, okay, multiplying the square root of 1 over x squared plus 5 over x to the power of 4. Okay, this is what you are going to have. And then you know the square root of x to the power 4, okay, will give us x squared. That's what you are going to have. Okay, so at the end our answer, okay, let me free up some space so that we can write down our answer. Okay, so now our answer will be equal to x squared bracket open the square root of 1 over x squared plus 5 over x to the power of 4. Okay, so that will be the factorized form. So you see that now we have what? X squared here, which is different from the previous factorization that we did, that we just had what? X. Okay, so this is how you have to do the factorization. Okay, so from here, okay, we can now write it here. Okay, we have x squared, okay, bracket open the square root of 1 over x squared plus 5 over x to the power what? 4. Okay, this is what you are going to have. So you see that now we can do the cancellation without any remainder, right? So this will cancel out this. Okay. So now let's try the direct substitution and see what you are going to get as our answer. Okay, so doing the direct substitution, you're going to have the square root of 1 over infinity squared plus 5 over infinity to the power 4, okay, divided by 3 minus 2 over infinity squared. Okay, this is what you're going to have. Okay, so you see that this value will approach 0, this will also approach 0, right? And then this will also approach 0. So we are going to have the square root of 0 plus 0 divided by 3 minus 0, which will give us an answer of what? 0. Okay, so that will be our answer. Okay, so guys, I have another example here. Okay, we are to find the limit, okay, of e to the power 6x squared plus x divided by 5 plus 3x as x approaches minus infinity. Okay, so now let's look at how you are going to solve this question. Okay, so to solve this question, you can find the limit of the expression in the bracket first, then after that you come and find the exponent of the value you get for that limit. Okay, so let's look at that. So you are going to have the limit as x approaches minus infinity, okay, for 6x squared plus x divided by 5 plus 3x. Okay, this is what you're going to have. So what you do is that you consider the denominator and then look for the highest power of x. In this case, that is just x. Okay, so you're going to factor out x from both the denominator and then the numerator. Okay, so let's look at what is going to happen. So you're going to have the limit as x approaches minus infinity. Okay, and then for the numerator, we are going to have x bracket open 6x plus 1. Okay, this is what you are going to have. And then for the denominator, we are going to have x into bracket 5 over x plus 3. Okay, this is what you are going to have. Okay, so this value and this value will cancel out. So now let's try the direct substitution again. So at the end, we are going to have 6 multiplying minus infinity plus 1, okay, divided by 5 over minus infinity plus 3. Okay, this is what you are going to have. So this value here will approach 0, okay, and then this one will give us minus infinity. Okay, so at the end, you are just going to have minus infinity plus 1 divided by 3. Okay, and then this will give us an answer of what? Minus what? Infinity. Okay, so at the end, our limit will be equal to e to the power what? Minus infinity. Okay, and then raising e to the power of a very large negative value will give us what? 0. Okay, so that will be the answer for what? This question. Okay, so now let's look at the next example. So for the next example, we are just going to use the same exponential function. Okay, but let's approach positive infinity. Okay, so now we are approaching positive infinity. Okay, so let's find the limit of the exponential function just like we did previously. We're going to have the limit as x approaches positive infinity for 6x squared plus x divided by 5 plus what? 3x. Okay, this is question 15. Okay, so now we are going to factor out the highest power of what? X from the denominator. Okay, so if you do this, we know that the highest power of x in the denominator is just x. So we are going to factor x out from both the numerator and then the denominator. Okay, so we are going to have the limit as x approaches positive infinity. Okay, for x into bracket 6x plus 1. Okay, divided by x into bracket 5 over x plus 3. Okay, this is what you are going to have. So this will cancel out this. Okay, so at the end, you're just going to have the limit as x approaches positive infinity for 6x plus 1, 6x plus 1, okay, divided by 5 over x plus 3. Okay, this is what you are going to have. So let's do the direct substitution again. So if you do that, you're going to have 6 multiplying infinity plus 1 divided by 5 over infinity plus 3. Okay, so this value will give us infinity, and then this value give us what? 0. Okay, so let's continue from here. So at the end, we are just going to have infinity plus 1 divided by what? 0 plus what? 3. And then this will give us what? Infinity. Okay, so our limit will be equal to e to the power of infinity. And then this will give us a value of what? Infinity. So that will be our answer. Okay, so I have the next example here, which is question 16. Okay, so you have to find the limit of the natural log of 4 minus 9x minus x cubed, okay, as x approaches what? Minus infinity. So if you try the direct substitution for this question also, you're going to have an indeterminate form. Okay, so let's look at what you are going to do. So we can write this as the natural log of the limit of 4 minus 9x minus x cubed as x approaches minus what? Infinity. Okay, so you have to compute the limit of what? The argument. So let's look at how you are going to do this. So you have the limit as x approaches minus infinity for 4 minus 9x minus what? X cubed. Okay, so you can't do the direct substitution now because you're going to have an indeterminate form. Okay, so what you're going to do is that you're going to factor out the highest power of what? X from the expression. Okay, so you're going to have the limit as x approaches minus infinity, then x cubed bracket open 4 over x cubed, okay, minus 9 over x squared minus 1. Okay, this is what you are going to have. Okay, so now let's do the direct substitution. So you're going to have minus infinity cube bracket open 4 over minus infinity cube, okay, minus 9 over minus infinity squared, okay, minus what? 1. Okay, this is what you are going to have. Okay, so let's look at what will happen. So this value here, okay, will approach 0. This will also approach 0. Okay, so at the end we are just going to have minus infinity cube, okay, multiplying what? Minus 1. Okay, and then minus infinity cube will give us minus infinity, okay, and then multiplying this by minus 1 will give us what? Positive what? Infinity. Okay, so our answer would be what? Positive infinity. And then note that we can't find the log of a negative number and also 0, so our answer must be what? A positive infinity. So at the end, the limit will be equal to the natural log of what? Infinity. Okay, and then this will be equal to infinity. So this will be our answer. Okay, guys, so this is the next example. Okay, so let's look at how you are going to solve this also. So I'm going to write this as the natural log of the limit of 3x to the power 4 minus 8 divided by 2 plus x squared as x approaches minus what? Infinity. Okay, this is what you are going to have. Okay, so now let's focus on the argument. Okay, so we have the limit as x approaches minus infinity for 3x to the power 4 minus 8 divided by 2 plus x squared. Okay, this is what we have. Okay, so what you are going to do is that we are going to look at the denominator and then factor out the highest power of what? X from both the denominator and then the numerator. So looking at the denominator, the highest power of x is what? X squared. Okay, so you are going to factor out x squared from both the numerator and then the denominator. So you are going to have, let me continue from here. You're going to have the limit as x approaches minus infinity, and then for the numerator, you are going to have x squared bracket open 3. Okay, so that will be x squared bracket open 3x squared, okay, minus 8 over x squared. Okay, that's what you are going to have. Okay, so let's look at the denominator also. So for the denominator, you are going to have x squared, bracket open, 2 over x squared, okay, plus 1. Okay, this is what you are going to have. So let's do the direct substitution. But before that, let's do the cancellation. Okay, so now we are going to have the limit. Let me write it here. We have the limit as x approaches minus infinity for 3x squared minus 8 over x squared, okay, divided by 2 over x squared plus 1. Okay, so let's do the substitution now. We're going to have 3 multiplying infinity squared minus 8 over infinity squared divided by 2 over infinity squared plus 1. Okay, so this value will approach 0. This will also approach what? 0. Okay, so at the end, we are going to have infinity divided by what? 1, which will give us what? Infinity. Okay, so at the end, our limit will be equal to the natural log of what? Infinity. And then this will give us what? Infinity. Okay, so that will be our answer. Okay, so this is the next example. Okay, so let's try our hands on this also. Okay, so for these two, if you try the direct substitution now, we are going to have an indeterminate form. So you have to do factorization. So let's look at the highest power of x in the denominator, and then you see that that will be what? The x to the power of 4. So I'm going to factor out x to the power 4 from both the numerator and then the denominator. Okay, so you are going to have the limit as x approaches infinity, okay, for x to the power 4, bracket open, 2 minus 1 over x squared, okay, plus 8 over x cubed. Okay, this is what you are going to have. Okay, so all this divided by x to the power 4 into bracket minus 5 plus 7 over x to the power 4. Okay, this is what you are going to have. So let's do the cancellation. This and this will be cancelled out. And then at the end, we are just going to have the limit as x approaches infinity for 2 minus 1 over x squared plus 8 over x cubed, okay, divided by minus 5 plus 7 over x to the power 4. Okay, this is what you are going to have. So if you do the direct substitution, you're going to have 2 minus 1 over infinity squared, okay, plus 8 over infinity cube divided by minus 5 plus 7 over infinity to the power 4. Okay, so this value will approach 0, this also 0, and then this also 0. So at the end, our answer, okay, will be equal to minus 2 on 5. Okay, so that will be our final answer. So let's look at the next example. Okay guys, so I have the next example here. Okay, so for this example also, if you try the direct substitution here, you are going to have an indeterminate form. Okay, so you have to do some factorization here. So to do this, let's look at the denominator and then consider the highest power of what? X. In this case, that's what? X cubed. So you are going to factor out x cubed from both the denominator and then the numerator. Okay, so let's look at that. So you are going to have the limit as x approaches positive infinity. Okay, so from the numerator, you are going to have x cubed, bracket open, 5 over x minus 4 over x squared. Okay, that's what you're going to have for the numerator, and then for the denominator you're going to have x cubed, okay, bracket open, 2 minus 11 over x plus 12 over x squared. Okay, this is what you're going to have. So this and this will be cancelled out, and then at the end we are going to have the limit as x approaches positive infinity for 5 over x minus 4 over x 4 over x squared, okay, divided by 2 minus 11 over x, okay, plus 12 over x squared, okay. So let's do the direct substitution now. So if you do this, you're going to have 5 over infinity plus, sorry, minus 4 over infinity squared divided by 2 minus 11 over infinity plus 12 over infinity squared, okay. So from here, you will see that this value will approach 0, this will also approach 0, this value will also approach 0, and then this will also approach 0. So at the end, we are going to have 0 minus 0 divided by 2 minus 0 plus 0, which will be equal to 0 over 2, and then that will be equal to 0. Okay, so that will be our answer. Okay, so let's take the next example. Okay, so this is the next example. Okay, so we have to compute the limit of the given expression. So if you try the direct substitution here again, we are going to have an indeterminate form. So just like we did for the previous questions, we are going to consider the highest power of x for the denominator, which is what, x squared in this case, and then factor it out from both the numerator and then the denominator. Okay, so let's look at that. So we are going to have the limit as x approaches minus infinity. Okay, for the numerator, we are going to have x squared bracket open multiplying what, x squared, okay, minus 3, okay, plus 6 over x squared. Okay, this is what you are going to have. Okay, all right, so all this divided by x squared bracket open minus 5 plus 1 over x plus 2 over x squared. Okay, this is what you are going to have. Okay, so at this point we can do the cancellation. This and this will cancel out, and then now you are going to have the limit as x approaches minus infinity for x squared minus 3 plus 6 over x squared. Okay, all this divided by minus 5 plus 1 over x plus 2 over x squared. Okay, so let's do the direct substitution. We're going to have minus infinity squared, okay, minus 3 plus 6 over minus infinity squared. Okay, all this divided by minus 5 plus 1 over infinity plus 2 over minus infinity squared. Okay, so let's look at what you are going to get. This value will approach positive infinity, this will approach 0, this will also approach 0, and then this will also approach 0. Okay, so at the end, you're going to have infinity minus 3 divided by what, minus 5. Okay, and then infinity minus 3 will still give us infinity, so we are going to have infinity divided by what, minus 5, and then that is going to give us an answer of what, minus what, infinity. So that will be our answer for this question also. So let's look at the next question.